Turner.
This week, the newspapers themselves have been in the news. Their claims that Princess Diana had attempted suicide and the speculation about the state of her marriage to Prince Charles prompted many people to call Person to Person outraged at the behaviour of the press.
When we went past Highgrove, I was absolutely amazed at the number of photographers that were just waiting there. Knowing that they'd probably gone down there to try and sort their problems out, I still think it was an awful intrusion into their privacy, and I do think they're entitled to that, whatever else.
They seem to be knocking them, and I think people's personal and private lives ought to be their own personal business, and their public life, their public life. So you don't step over that boundary, because I wouldn't like my personal life spread all over the front pages of the paper.
The Press Complaints Commission, which is the newspaper's self-regulating body, condemned the reporting in one of its strongest statements yet, describing it as an odious exhibition of journalists dabbling in the stuff of other people's souls. The very next day, though, the papers were unrepentant. But the Complaints Commission also said the couple's own behaviour had put the state of the marriage into the public domain, and it is, therefore, a legitimate subject within the public interest for report and comment. So how should the press draw the line? The royals are big business. One bookshop had 16 royal titles on its shelves this week, and the editors of the papers know only too well that royalty sells, because, however outraged some may say they are by the stories, it seems plenty more people want to read them. The church, too, has been drawn in. The Archbishop of Canterbury said the speculation on the Wales's marriage exceeded the boundaries which should be observed. He's backed by the Bishop of Bristol.
These are human beings who have to work out their own relationships in their own way and as creatively as possible. It only becomes of real public importance when the event has taken place. And that's when, as a nation and as a country and also as presumably the royal family, then we have to deal with that. But to start meddling before any such event has taken place seems to me to be wrong.
But not all callers to Person were sympathetic.
Well, I believe that if the stories are true that Mr. Andrew Neil tells us, then I feel very sad that this young lady has tried to commit suicide 5 times. She feels that the pressure of a royal marriage is too much. If she feels that pressure is arriving in a chauffeur-driven limousine, cutting a ribbon, saying a few pretty words and shaping a limp wrist or two, then maybe she should take her children, try and bring them up in Sarajevo at the moment, or maybe she should go to Ethiopia and sit in the desert with her children and watch their lives ebb away because they don't have sufficient food in their stomachs. Maybe these two extremely privileged people and obscenely wealthy people should realise how lucky they are and then get on living their lives, and maybe Mr. Andrew Neil can then go back to reporting the news.
The government says it will take the newspaper's treatment of the royal family into consideration when it considers press regulation later this month. But whether it decides to legislate or not, the newspaper editors' belief that their coverage is justified by public interest will never be shaken until the sales of their newspapers begin to tumble. And there are absolutely no signs of that at the moment. We're back on another subject with Person to Person next week.
When our sport